Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen.
And I'm Don Neuen, and that's the last time I'm going to do that because we have this is a very serious segment we're going to do, unlike the majority of the first segments that we do, ladies and gentlemen. And that, Donna Fiducia,
yes,
is because we've got two people on the phone with us that are in Houston. One of which is our good buddy, Ron Phillips, the owner of Talk America Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to know that Ron and his brother Carl jumped into their pickup truck and drove to Houston to help.
From Dallas.
From Dallas, Texas. Mm-hmm. Actually from another city, a smaller city outside of Dallas, but let's use Dallas to keep Ron's anonymity.
Yes.
And in addition... We have a lifelong friend of mine, 35 years and counting.
Boy, you must be old.
I am old, but Dan LIPARI, ladies and gentlemen, is with us. He lives in Houston, and he is older than I am. Dan LIPARI, Ron Phillips, welcome to the Big Cowboy Logic Radio Show, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Let's start with Dan. You're a little bit north of Houston, you were saying just before we brought you on to do the show. But so luckily you have cell service. You are still able to be in your house. But even where you are, how many inches of rain did you get so far?
We've gotten probably between 11 and 15 inches in this area, which is minimal compared to the rest of the area.
Wow. And you've never seen anything like this. And how many years you've been in this area of Houston?
This time since 2000.
Wow.
Let's put this into perspective a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. 11 trillion gallons of water has been dumped on Houston and South Texas.
Yep.
Based on what I can tell, as of right now, 6 have been killed. Thousands are homeless. 7 million people are trapped. That's 1/4 of the population of Texas is in a federally designated disaster area. The Brazos River, am I saying that right, Dan? Brazos River?
That's correct.
Which is southwest of Houston, is expected to swell to 60 feet, at which point it would breach the levees.
Wow.
And the Houston mayor, which we're going to get into this a little bit, the Houston mayor, Sylvester Turner, said on Friday that evacuation was not necessary.
Yeah. Hindsight being what it is, why they didn't evacuate Houston, I have no idea.
And Harris County Judge Ed Emmett, quote, "Stay where you are and ride out the storm." Yeah. Now, that's kind of putting in perspective what's going on down there as far as the numbers and the gallons and the comments. Ron, where are you right now?
Guys, my brother and I are sitting in a hotel parking lot. The hotel is without power, like a lot of places down here, but we are halfway between Houston downtown and Katy, Texas, which is west of Houston.
And how much water, I mean, with your truck is lifted, and so you're trying not to obviously go into any areas where you've got too much water, but I mean, has anybody approach you for help, that kind of thing? I know you're there to try to do relief help. Is it being organized anywhere where you are?
Yeah, Donna, there's several places that are organizing the help. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get to any of those places tonight. We actually came down Interstate 35 through Waco, Texas, and then came across through College Station where Texas A&M is. We came on down, but we kind of got blocked about the time we got to Cypress, Texas, because, it started raining on us back at College Station, and it rained on us pretty hard for about an hour and a half before we got down here to Cypress, and then we just got blocked. Fortunately for us, we drove around for a while, about an hour and a half. There were a lot of boats being put in the water because the water was high. We did have to drive through some high water areas there in Cypress. But like Mr. LIPARI said, it is definitely flooded in the southern and western sides of Houston. There are just no passageways to get to where we need to go. We were on our way down to Katy, Texas, because of the damage down there and the people that are trapped. But fortunately, we were able to hook up with some Haltom City. That's a place near Fort Worth. Haltom City police officers who were being staged down here in Houston, and with their help, we've got a few Harris County and Houston police officer police escorts on the opposite sides of the highways and things like that to kind of get past the roadblocks. But we made our way down here, and it just got too late. And I believe Houston's now got a curfew that started at 10 p.m. Central. So we're just going to bed down in the truck tonight and get up early and see where we can go to help.
So I had the TV on all day, and Fox business reporter Jeff Flock, who said in all his years he's reported, including Katrina, he's never seen anything like this. Now, Katrina was a Cat 5, Harvey was a Cat 4, but the rain just will not stop. Now, Don, as you mentioned, 6 people lost their lives. I'm sure that number is going to
climb.
But that's minimal, considering the extent of this storm, and 11 trillion gallons of water, 50 inches of rain expected to fall overall before this is over. And it's probably not going to be over till later on in the week. The storm, from what I gather, is just stalled. Dan, are you seeing the water still rise where you are?
Not where I'm at, but I know earlier today some of the bayous dropped in volume, but with the continued rain, they have now raised up to where they were, and they expect them to get even higher. You know, the problem is really kind of a combination of a hurricane and a tropical storm like Alicia.
Uh-huh.
So you have all that wind devastation to the west of Houston, but then you also got some of the wind and the rain of a tropical storm that just sits on top of you and just keeps dumping and dumping. And unfortunately, there's been so much rain that the rivers, the bayous, places that have never flooded have flooded and will continue to flood, especially as these rivers crest.
Let's talk about this Brazos River. Dan, obviously you're familiar with this because you've lived in that area for years. How serious is the potential here if this thing crests at 60 feet and these levees break or it breaches the levees? How serious is that? And Ron, are you anywhere near that? And should you get the hell out of there?
Well, the potential for, the Brazos River getting that high and the breach of any levee, be it on the Brazos, the San Jacinto, any of the creeks, any of the levees. Houston is nothing but a bunch of bayous, waterways, rivers. It's low-lying. It's just going to make the flooding worse. You will see over the next couple of days and maybe onward greater flooding in the metropolitan Houston area. And that includes multiple counties, probably 10, 15 counties at least.
Ron, how close are you to this river and these levees?
Well, we're not in downtown, but I heard on the news earlier today that they were going to go ahead and breach some of these levees just to relieve them in the downtown, towards the downtown area. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, almost all of downtown Houston is underwater right now. And, guys, we're hearing that we're supposed to get another 25 inches potentially tomorrow as well. It's been raining on us since we got past College Station, and that was probably 6-7 hours ago.
Have you had any breaks at all? Is it just torrential rain, or is it just steady?
No, it's not. It's not torrential. It's just steady. Yeah.
And obviously the ground is so saturated already; it has nowhere to go.
The interstates are saturated.
Yeah, well, we saw that when we were at Katrina, but you just are wondering where on earth all this water is going to go. And unfortunately for the people there, so many have lost everything. Now, FEMA money was already on the way well before Friday afternoon, Friday evening when this thing hit. I mean, immediately. But of course, I don't want to get political, but the main thing is Donald Trump can do nothing right in the eyes of the lamestream media. But I think it helps that Trump's chief of staff, as Admiral or whatever is General Kelly, he was the former Homeland Security Director. So we're in a lot better hands, I think, because he knows from whence he speaks as far as disasters are concerned. So I think that's going to help. But Ron, you did say that. And there is actually a report on Drudge that the Cajun Navy, which is a group of people wanting to help coming over from New Orleans, I think they formed after Katrina, they actually tried to help some people, and they're getting shot at by the looters.
Yes, that's correct. Now, we've been listening to a lot of their conversations coming down. There's an app that you can get for your cell phone called Zello, Zello, that actually has a lot of the staging and volunteer communication going along with it, but a lot of people who are needing help are reaching out on that app as well. And so we've been listening to people give their address and calling for help and saying that here's the number of family members and pets, and can you get a boat to me? Most specifically in the southwestern side of the Houston area, the Katy area, the Cypress area, it's just really, really bad. And guys, I'll tell you, CNN put out a notice earlier today, and they were absolutely correct in what they said. People are beginning to panic, and we're listening to these folks on this, that are requesting the help, who thought they could ride this out, who have been watching this water rise over the last 24 to 48 hours, and now it's gotten to a point where they just can't stay in their home anymore. And so there are thousands and thousands of people down here with boats trying to go in and get people. But as you mentioned, Donna, there are always these folks out there who will try to harm people. I mean, not only are they shooting at the Cajun Navy and the other rescuers, they're trying to take their boats from them as well. And so that just, that hurts everybody else.
Yeah, that's really scary.
And the looting is appalling. But, it always happens. We shouldn't be surprised and aren't, but it's appalling. Dan LiPari, if my memory serves me correctly, my friend, you are from New Orleans.
Well, I lived there for 9 years.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you were not there during Katrina. You were in Texas.
Correct.
But because that's a place that's near and dear to your heart, are you able at this point to try and compare the two with regard to, the magnitude of what's going on? I mean, we're hearing reports that this is worse than Katrina was.
I think it's much more widespread than a Katrina. Katrina, the biggest problem was not just the hurricane, but because the levees failed. But that was in a much smaller geographic area. This is so much more widespread than a Katrina. And the people here, areas that have never flooded, even up to they compare to, they base everything on a 100-year flood. They're talking about flooding in areas where it hasn't occurred over an 800-year time period. So, there's water where people have never had it. There are people that are used to hurricanes here, and they know how to hunker down. And they know how to stock up, and they got their generators, and they got everything they need. But they did not expect, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet of water in their house. Generator's not going to help you when that happens.
Wow.
One of the most disturbing pictures that I saw, and I don't know if you guys saw this on social media, was the retirement home that was flooded, and the poor people, the poor elderly people sitting in wheelchairs and chairs in water, and one woman knitting.
She was knitting like ho-hum. There's nothing.
You got to wonder whether she even knew she was sitting in water.
Well, the beauty of it, though, is social media. Those people probably would have drowned or died from overexposure. You know what I mean? But social media put that picture out, and people went and rescued them, which is amazing. My question is, I'm sorry, if you own one of those things, a nursing home or whatever, you got to get the people out of there. I mean, my mom, when we had tornado warnings, they made everybody essentially get up and go into certain areas. They had drills for the elderly people. And you got to wonder what's going on here. But again, Dan, like you say, this is something that probably hasn't happened in hundreds and hundreds of years, so it's not really expected.
Well, Donna, the thing is that those people probably, and we're finding that out down here, is that those people probably are not in a flood zone.
Yeah.
But this time, that didn't make a difference. And so there was no planning. There was no, evacuation or anything like that. And that's the thing that's scary about watching what's going on down here right now.
Let me ask you both if you agree or disagree with Mayor Sylvester Turner's evacuation is not necessary and Judge Ed Emmett stay where you are and ride out the storm. Do you guys agree that was the right decision made by these two guys or the wrong decision?
I can only speak from past performance, and I'm speaking directly about Judge Ed Emmett. With every catastrophic event we've had in the Houston area, in the past he's done a great job. And I think that, from a planning standpoint, you can only plan to a certain degree based on past situations. He has always addressed the safety of the citizens of the Houston area and, Harris County ever since he's been in place. I can't speak for the mayor. He's relatively new. But I don't think him or anybody else could have predicted or anticipated the kind of catastrophic event that we were going to be faced with here.
Ron,
what are your thoughts on this? Yeah. And I know you don't know these two guys as well as you do your mayor.
Yeah, I don't know them very well, but guys, look, I'm hearing the rumblings of that there was a meeting and that they had heard that this was going to be much worse, but they went ahead and made the decision that they made. Whether that's true or not, the bottom line is I believe that these gentlemen made the best decision that they could possibly have made, as was said earlier, knowing what history has brought to them. But you're talking about trying to evacuate 7 million plus people out of an area that doesn't normally have to be evacuated for something like this.
True.
And so if you get told to ride out the storm, well, they had as much information as you did when they told you that. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, because if I lived along the coast, I'd get the hell out of Dodge. But in Houston, you think, well, it might be bad, but it's not going to be all that bad. Now,
well, and to their credit, as of right now, we're only aware of 6 casualties.
Yeah. But
or fatalities, I should say.
Rick Perry, by the way, was on with Hannity last night. And one thing that he put in place, I guess, during the time, whether he did it or not, but it was during the time he was governor, was literally a rainy day fund. And there supposedly is some $8 to $10 billion in that fund, which is going to be really helpful if that is the case, and that would be a huge godsend to that area.
Yeah, that's going to be a drop in the bucket, though, but it is a good thing. Let me ask you this, Dan LiPari. You're clearly not able to get to work, am I correct? And even if you were, work would be shut down, right?
Oh, yeah, not for the next couple of days, at least.
All right. Ron, we had the experience of being able to go down to New Orleans about 4 days after Katrina hit. And it's something I will never, ever forget. I will not forget the way it smelled, the way it sounded, the way it didn't sound.
Yeah, there was
what
no
we
sound.
saw, what we saw on the side of the road, what we saw going into gutters with regard to animals. You've got about a minute. Are you able to describe to the listeners to try and it's something I'm telling you, you will never ever forget what you're about to see down there. but describe to the listeners some of the things you've seen, smelled, heard. Describe your environment right now.
Well, guys, I haven't yet experienced what you guys did with Katrina, of course, because we just got here and it got dark on us real quick. But the one thing that I did notice when we were driving down the highway, it was like a ghost town in, the largest city in the state of Texas. There are no cars out. There are still some sitting on the sides of the roads. We're on the Beltway, which is kind of around the outskirts of downtown, but I would imagine it's like that in the middle of downtown as well. I anticipate, though, Don, that we'll see that a lot more tomorrow.
Yeah, New Orleans was like, it was a movie almost. It was a city with nobody in it.
We were standing on the interstate right in front of the Superdome, and it was mid-afternoon, about 4 days afterwards. And this is what we saw, smelled, and heard. We saw the only life that we saw were military and first responders, but primarily military. The only sounds we heard were military chatter, helicopters, and dogs barking. And the smell we smelled was oil in water.
Yeah. And they are saying some pipelines have ruptured, but they think they've contained it. Because obviously in the Houston area, that's a huge problem.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, we thank you. Your boots on the ground there, Ron Phillips and Dan LIPARI, coming to us from Houston. We thank you for taking your time out of your evening. Ron, I don't know how you're going to sleep comfortably, but maybe you can give Dan a call after this and go spend the night at his house.
If you get up there.
But at any rate, from Houston, Dan LIPARI and our buddy Ron Phillips. Donna, who do we have coming up tonight?
Somebody who has a 21% lead over Jeff Flake for Senate in Arizona. I'm talking about Dr. Kelly Ward. We're going to be talking to her coming up later on in the show. But first, after the break, Tom Del Beccaro is going to be talking, just about everything politically. The aforementioned Dr. Kelly Ward and the state of journalism or lack thereof will be discussed with Steve MALZBERG. It's all coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you these two 24/7 streams of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. Talk America Radio is a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. Please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. You can contribute monthly or send us a one-time amount. We'll put it to good use continuing to share the American voice. Thank you.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
This is Don Neuen, co-host of the Drive Time Sit Rep. Join me as I call in to my Intel analyst, Denise Simon, for my daily situation report, or Sit Rep, the Drive Time Sit Rep. Check talkamericaradio.us for more information and show times.
Hi, this is Michelle Malkin from CRTV.com, and you're listening to Talk America Radio.
Hey, Kaleem, thanks for helping me out here.
No problem, Don. Anything to help the cause, if you know what I mean.
All right, you got the script, right?
Yep.
All right, and you got that check I sent you for $200, all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let me count you down. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Colleen Stevens, veteran, model, political activist, and black conservative woman. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel compelled to tell you the hottest, most sexy talk radio host on the entire surface of the earth is Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio. Don, wait, are you serious?
Yeah, come on, just read the script, Kaleem. Come on.
Okay. Not Rush Limbaugh, not Mark Levine, not Sean Hannity, not even Donna Fiducia.
Hey, what's up with all the laughter? Come on, just read the script.
Ooh, okay. Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, is seasoned, intellectually ahead of the curve, engaging, mind-stimulating, oh my goodness, and extremely entertaining. Don Neuen is the complete package.
All right, don't worry, Kaleem. See, I can edit some of this together so we can get rid of all the laughing.
Catch Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, my favorite and most sexy talk radio host right here on Talk America Radio. Check schedules for showtime at talkamericaradio.us.
Thanks, Kaleem. You actually sounded convincing. That was awesome.
Oh, my.
Digital Dallas. Talk America Radio.
Hey, everybody, they're back on again.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glares. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome back to Cowboy.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name remains Don Neuen, and let me be the first to welcome you back to Cowboy Logic Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's show is off the chain. Riveting, don't you think, Donna?
I guess.
Well, I'm still bloated from my Milano's pizza that I had earlier. I mean, my neck feels thick.
We actually found a decent Italian restaurant.
Which is exactly why we've got the next guest on, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a Paisan friend with us. We've got a Paisano. We've got a Paisano guy. Paisano would-be guy, right?
Yes, but he is out there in the San Francisco area where they have tons of really good ethnic food of every type, including Italian, which is...
Including little yard gnome restaurants.
Stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Del Beccaro is with us. He is our friend. He is our brother. He is our mentor. And he is launching a new website, politicalvanguard.com, on September 6th. Back to you, Donna.
Yes. So, Tom, welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. You've got a big kickoff party going on at your house and all kinds of stuff. Let me just reintroduce you here, though. You are a Forbes contributor. You're a Republican in California, so no easy task. Former chairman of the California Republican Party. And again, if California had half a brain in their backside, you would be their senator and not Kamala Harris, but that's another story. You also have been on the Weekly Standard, Breitbart, Daily Caller, and you're author as well. The book, The Divided Era, and just some great
And
stuff.
And
what?
He's got the best looking backyard in all of Northern California.
He's got the best looking backyard pretty much in all of the United States.
I would agree with that.
But it's not going to look the same after your kickoff party for your website, politicalvanguard.com.
Tom Del Beccaro, welcome to the big show, buddy.
Do you guys even need me, or because I think your act's better than mine?
I'm just thinking we don't even have any time left for the interview. We just spent the whole time on
No,
the
we
intro.
will make time for our friend Tom Del Beccaro. Tom, how have you been, my friend?
Yes, sir. I'm doing good. California continues to drift like parts of the nation, actually. But I'm doing well. Thanks.
All right, let's get right into the big thing that's happening with politicalvanguard.com. Tell us about what's going on, what we can expect with the rebranding of this website.
Well, I started it in 2002 as one of the first conservative sites in America, and certainly the first in California. We started in 2002, and we are just doing a complete redo, and we have 18 contributors and from around the country, and it's going to be really good. So I'm excited about it. It's a news source. A lot of people ask these days, where should I get my news? Well, you should get it from us, because what we do is cull through it all and bring you the more factual stories. I don't have to tell you guys, in an age of fake news, it's hard to know what's real and what isn't. Yep. And most news today is full of commentary. We try and find the links to big stories that's based on facts and not just commentary.
So you won't have any links to CNN?
It's unlikely.
All right, I know you're not sitting in front of your or in your office right this second, but off the top of your head, who are some of the contributors that you're going to have?
Well, Denise Simon, I know she's a favorite of yours. Denise is one of the contributors. We have Andrea Kay. I'm just picking people off your incredible network.
Yep.
She'll be there as well. John Tantillo joins me. If you don't know
cool.
John
I know him.
is credited with naming the O'Reilly the Factor. And he and I are working together on a project on the intersection between politics and branding and marketing. So we're doing that as well. So those are just a couple of the names. And the other thing I'm doing, which I think is really important, is that I'm bringing in new voices. These are really smart 20-somethings, maybe one's in his early 30s, a couple of them. And these are new voices. I want to mentor, bring along bright people and give them a chance to start early and have a commentary, and we're doing that as well.
That's awesome.
I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan. You want to talk about young, up-and-coming people that I think are going to be superstars? One America News Network, 9 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Friday. Liz Wheeler is exceptional. I think, and Andrea Kay is on her show, I think, once a week at least. She's phenomenal.
Correct.
Liz Wheeler thinks Tom's hot.
Does she?
Yeah.
No, she doesn't. Which is unfortunate. But and Rick Amato is joining us, formerly of OAN, but now has his own show. So we have a whole bunch of people.
What's your take on OAN? I mean, I think it's starting to get some legs. No?
Yeah, no doubt. I was on just the other day, and I was really surprised at the number of people that watched that show. It was great.
See,
Which show were you on? Were you on Liz's show?
No, Stephanie Himmel.
Okay. Liz thinks you're hot.
Will you stop?
She does. We know her through Andrea Kay, sort of.
Well, Andrea Kay thinks Tom is hot.
Hey, Andrea Kay thinks you're hot.
But she's married, so therefore we'll have to focus on someone else.
What was that strange noise?
That was Donna in the background talking.
Oh.
Hey, turn your radio down.
All right. So let's.
Hey, first time, long time listener, first time caller.
Hey, Tom, I know Donna wants to ask you something, but if I can interrupt here, I want to move to the post-speech commentary last week with regard to Trump's speech in Phoenix, and a nauseatingly disturbing 6 minutes in which James Clapper labeled the President of the United States unfit and a threat with the nuclear codes. And I want to get your thoughts on James Clapper's disgusting statements that were made about the sitting president.
Considering the source.
Objection leading. Now, did James Clapper make those comments wittingly or unwittingly? Of course, I'm making a reference to the fact that he bald-faced lied to Congress when asked about their collection of names, which has proven to be felonious. And he bald-faced lied to Congress and said, well, we're not collecting them wittingly. Well, in fact, they had an intense program. But James Clapper is the equivalent of the deep state, and so's that even worse than Clapper, Brennan. Mm-hmm. And so Donna's right. You know, what do I care what they have to say, because they're just consider the source, they're dishonest, and I don't even think they're worth commentating about. I'm sorry, Don, but
and I agree with you.
And Comey,
people that have an IQ above 9 get that, but the problem is the people that are watching CNN are those that are sitting in airports, flying around all over the world, and many of them, while they're eyeballing CNN, have a People magazine or an Us magazine or a one of the tabloid magazines in front of them. These are potential voters that are being indoctrinated,
brainwashed
by this type of lie.
No question about it. It's like worse than you think. I don't know how much international travel you did do. The first time I ever did it, and I saw what CNN International, and I thought to myself, well, now I know why Europe hates us, because CNN International speaks so negatively about the United States. I mean, I don't even think that TASS. Remember, I know Don's old enough to remember what TASS. Maybe Donna isn't, but
no, I don't know.
I don't think the Soviet news stations speak that badly of us.
And TASS was run by the Soviet government, was it? I mean,
well, and I don't travel internationally because in 2009 I was put on a no-fly list by the Barack Obama administration.
Get out of here.
But I know what you mean.
But okay, so now let's go to Hurricane Harvey, which is like one of the worst storms to hit. And I love this. First of all, the whole thing with global warming. We haven't had any major storms in almost a decade. So this one hits.
4,324 days.
There you go. Okay, so Harvey hits.
A record.
I know. So now Trump pardons Arpaio on Friday, and CNN says he did it on Friday, knowing the hurricane was about to hit Texas, forcing us to report on other things. Meanwhile, if you watched, they focused completely on Trump, and they had this little tiny, I watched for like 2 hours. I forced myself. And they had this little tiny thing showing the swirling clouds over Texas. And I think they had one segment in that 2 hours where they actually brought in a weather person. Everything else was harping on Trump and Arpaio and how the KKK has everything to do with this, and it's racist. It's unbelievable. So us deplorables are now KKK members and racist.
Yeah, of course, the broadest possible stroke. You have their former DNC chair, Howard Dean, saying if you vote for Trump or support him, you're racist. You have Perez, who's a disaster for them as current chairman. He's essentially saying the same things. And so, one of the more interesting things about all of this, but I got to say them about the media. One of the most interesting things about the way they're bringing Trump down is it's not translating into votes or anything supporting the Democrats. They're not getting support because they have nothing to offer but anger. But back to the media. Look, at the end of the day, this is selling for CNN and MSNBC. Rachel Maddow, her ratings are up. And so this means money to them, and so they're going to keep doing it.
See, that's scary to me because I can't believe anybody would latch on to that. Tom Del Beccaro, your one book, which I often talk about, The Divided Era, again, talks about how at the beginning of a nation, you have the competition for ideas. At the end, you have the competition for spoils, which I firmly believe is what we're seeing right now. But even the deep swamp is deeper than I thought. I mean, comment, if you would, about what's going on inside the Trump White House. Now, I can see Bannon leaving and probably thinking he can do better at Breitbart. I don't know how important really Sebastian Gorka is, but McMaster still being there is disturbing to me.
Yes, Richard Nixon said a while back that, and he was paraphrasing a British prime minister, which said the first thing you got to be is a good butcher. And what he meant by that was you really need to come in and get your people in positions and then cull out the rest of the political appointments. And the Trump administration has not been active enough of that. Part of that had to do with, and you see this in mostly Democrat administrations, but part of that is he brought in a whole series of people who aren't used to Washington, and as a result, they were spending their personal time trying to figure out Washington, when it would have behooved him to have a couple of renegades in there who knew Washington and started this process of removing some of the deeper state people. And I want to, unfortunately, I don't like the name deep state because it implies in a darkness and then people don't believe that it exists. Here's the plain truth of where we are. There are now in America 23 million people working for governments. 23 million. And that number doesn't substantially go down in season or off. And they have a natural human reaction to want to continue or enlarge what they're doing. And so they have a bias, a government bias. And it's very hard for a president to come in and say, we should be at 21 million. We should really be at 13. Yeah. So it's the deep state sounds sinister, but the reality is we have a huge bureaucracy that perpetuates itself, and they know they'll be there 4 years from now, even if the next president or 8 isn't there, so they naturally resist.
And that's the thing. And I see that with McConnell and certainly Paul Ryan. I'm telling you, if Paul Ryan were a horse, I'd never buy him. Just look at his eyes. Boehner was the same way. That wild eye, you can't trust him as far as you can throw him. And what's happening now, as Trump is getting to the point where he might be losing some political clout because of what John McCain did, I feel out of spite because of what Trump said about him during the campaign. Trump, McCain would rather throw the whole nation under the bus. But you've got that failing. And, huge uproar over Charlottesville, which I think totally was ridiculous. And so the big perception is Trump's starting to lose a little bit of that luster. So maybe they're going to go in for the kill.
Well, I don't know what the kill is. Look.
Well, what I'm saying is now you don't have tax reform. That's the next big thing.
Yeah. So if we back up just a bit on Charlottesville, remember that during the Obama administration, consistently, what you saw were terrorist strikes that turned out to be from people on the left or pure terror. So there's a lot of pent-up energy in the media when some bad people claiming to be on the right did something. So this is years of getting back. Oh, we finally found somebody we think's on the right. So we're going to turn this into the worst possible thing on earth. And by the way, these people are not Nazis. They're so dumb that they don't even know what they are. But if the left does believe they're Nazis because they chant certain Nazi slogans related to workers and stuff like that, then in fact they're on the left, because of course the Nazi Party was the National Socialist Party. And so, just some of my thoughts on there. But look, Ryan and McConnell, it has been a historic failure by all counts. You cannot know modern equivalent of having the three branches of the Senate, the House, and the presidency, and not having a major piece of legislation.
I agree.
Historic failure.
I agree. Tom, go back to Charlottesville. I have a sick feeling in my stomach that Charlottesville was nothing but a political campaign for Terry McAuliffe and the mayor of Charlottesville.
They allowed it to happen.
What are your thoughts on that? You think I'm way out, as Denise would say, on left base?
Well, I would never want to disagree with one of my contributors, and so I'm going to agree that you're way out. But on this point,
thanks, Tom.
Look, the left has made it clear that they're going to go after Trump no matter what he does. I said on TV the other day, Trump could give out the winning lottery numbers and they accuse him of something. So yes, they're exploiting every opportunity. And here's my view about this particular march. The law says that you have a right to free speech and you can get a permit to walk down the street if you're, of course it was the big case related to the Ku Klux Klan, you have that right to do. But there's an unless, just like you can't call fire in a theater. What did Nancy Pelosi say you can't call in a theater? It was something.
You can't call shark or something in a theater.
That happens when you're too old.
No, you can't cry wolf in a theater. That was it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can't cry wolf in a theater.
She said that, I swear.
Yeah, but Tom, with regard to Charlottesville, there's just nothing that's really making sense, though. Nothing makes sense about this. I mean...
Okay, but slow down. Because I think that I would like to make a point that I think is important. And that is...
I'll be glad to slow down.
All right, thank you, Hal.
To you, Tom.
Thank you, Hal. For those of you old enough to remember that,
I know what you're saying. Go ahead, Tom.
Which brought a whole new meaning to Dave's not here. Listen, there is an exception to free speech march, which is imminent danger, and I actually think it was within the rights of those officials to not permit them to march that day when they showed up with all of their battle armor, because it looked like they were itching for a fight. So, but of course that didn't happen. So Terry McAuliffe certainly didn't shed a tear when it did get into it. And of course, the video clearly shows that Antifa started the fighting, and that doesn't matter to people because it's in the media, because they're on the left, and therefore if they're fighting, it's a good thing. But it's not. Remember, not only did I go to UC Berkeley, I only live 15 miles as the crow flies away, and Antifa just violently shuts things down. That's what they do. And they get away with felonies all the time.
I call them trust fund Antifa, because that's what they are. When the trust fund runs out...
You call them trust fund terrorists.
Yeah, that too. But here's the thing. We do this for a living. All of a sudden, Unite the Right pops up. I never even heard of that damn organization. And the thing is, Nobody's following up on this because I guarantee you this is the truth. This guy, Jason Kessler, who organized Unite the Right until last November, was an Obama supporter, and 5 years ago was a CNN reporter in the field for Occupy Wall Street. And so he is actually on the left. And there are people who reported seeing Unite the Right and Antifa agitators getting off the same bus. I mean, that's the whole thing.
I agree with you. And of course, there's no Pulitzer Prize, no muckrakers anymore in the press. It has become completely polarized, which is a definite signature of a divided era.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking about that with Steve MALZBERG later on in the show, my friend from New York Media and Newsmax. Here's one thing, though, Tom. We only have a minute left. Talk about what you feel the situation is going forward with tax reform.
Well, look, the Republicans in Congress either need to recognize that they pass this or they're going to lose big seats next fall. It's that simple. They should have had a simple tax reform bill on January 22nd. They blew it. If they had, the economy would be jumping right now, and the press would have not much to talk about. I offer a very simple tax bill, and it goes like this. It's one sentence. All federal taxes instituted or increased since the Reagan 86 bill are hereby repealed. That's it.
Yeah, because they keep piling on it, right?
Pretty simple.
But they need to do this. If they don't do it, then the historic failure will show up next November as well.
Here's the thing. The attacks on the Senate and the House, I feel, by Trump is making Trump, step up their game a bit, and they don't realize it. But in the media's case, they're doubling down, and liberalism is a mental disorder, as Michael Savage says. But McConnell and Ryan think that they're going to be there after Trump, so they don't care.
PoliticalVanguard.com. Relaunching.
And the divided era on Amazon, please.
Absolutely. But PoliticalVanguard.com is relaunching on September 6th, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not go to this website, unfriend Donna and I and Tom on Facebook immediately, please.
And I believe if you go to our website, talkamericaradio.us, there's a link to
Tom's
Divided
books.
Era on there as well.
Yep.
Both of Tom's books, in fact.
And he's also a member of our kitchen cabinet. We are honored to say that, my friend. Thank you.
So you have two websites, politicalvanguard.com and talkamericaradio.us, and that's where you're going to get all your information.
And we got to go to break. Who's coming up next, Donna?
We'll be talking to Dr. Kelly Ward, talking about the deep state and how to unseat it. It's coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance. Yes, when cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. Don's going to be very refined.
I'm going to behave this segment.
Yes, because we have somebody who needs the more formal type
I have to act
introduction.
professional.
Yes, as opposed to what you normally act like.
That's right.
Okay. So, because normally you act like a weirdo.
Don Neuen.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get serious. Let's put the game face on, because this is a serious segment, ladies and gentlemen. No playing around here. It's all about business right now.
Yes, because we're talking to one Dr. Kelly Ward. Kelly ran against John McCain for the Senate last time around, and Arizona, unfortunately, went with the rhino. Anyhow, you have a BS in psychology from Duke. You're a doctor of osteopathic medicine from the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Med. You met your hubby, Michael, in med school. He served in the Army and the National Guard. In 2012, elected to the Arizona State Senate, now running against Jeff Flake. We love it. Kelly Ward, Dr. Kelly Ward, welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Hi, Donna. Hi, Don. It's great to be back with you.
Well, thank you.
So we're watching Trump last week, and he's going, one more vote. One more vote is all I needed. And we're yelling at the TV, well, if Kelly Ward were there, you'd have that one more vote.
Well, actually, we were yelling, here comes the endorsement.
Yes.
Here comes the endorsement. All right, so...
Well, he said he wasn't going to name names. He didn't name names, but he did point out that our senators have really been dismal in Washington, D.C. John McCain with his big thumbs down frown to get rid of Obamacare, at least start the process of getting rid of Obamacare, leaving Americans saddled with skyrocketing deductibles, premiums they can't afford, and no access to high-quality, cost-effective health care. And leaving taxpayers holding the bag, because I hear that in D.C. they're actually contemplating bailing out Obamacare plans across the entire country, and we can't allow that to happen. We cannot allow that to happen. And then Jeff Flake, he's weak on the border, weak on crime, and not effective in the United States Senate. Arizona definitely deserves better, and that's why I'm out here. That's why I'm the front runner at this point in the race.
It's so refreshing to hear that, because I think Arizonans are finally saying, oh my gosh, we can't have this any longer. And I had to laugh again at Trump.
Well, I think Arizonans figured out that they made a big mistake the last time Kelly's name was on the ballot.
Exactly. And then Trump gets up there, and I'm laughing again, because he goes, and the other guy, Jeff Flake, nobody even knows who the hell he is.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, I think that what people know of him is they know that he's been a never Trumper from the beginning. During the primary, he said that Donald Trump wasn't his 14th choice to be our Republican nominee. After Donald Trump clinched that nomination, against an extremely talented field of Republicans and many conservatives in that field of 17 when we first started. After he clinched the nomination, Jeff Flake said, no, he doesn't, he's not good enough. Arizona and America deserves better than Donald Trump. Donald Trump should actually step out of the race, is what Jeff Flake said. And he was featured in a Hillary Clinton commercial for that statement. And then since he's been the president, Jeff Flake, he's showing the two faces of Flake. On Fox News, he comes out and talks about how he supported the president, over 90% of the time in his votes. But remember, how many votes have they actually taken? Not many. Most of these have been about naming post offices and inconsequential things. When it comes down to the tough issues, you can't count on Jeff Flake. And then he goes on PBS radio and talks about how he disagrees with Donald Trump on this, that, and the other. So he's got two faces, and he expects the Arizona electorate to buy into what he's selling. And what he's selling is the status quo. And people are simply sick and tired of these career politicians who have been in Washington, D.C. for decades, trying to tell us how bad it is when they're the ones who have created that very environment that they complain about.
I couldn't agree with you more. Also, I would take it one step further and say the two faces of Flake are corn and snow.
I love it. I love it.
You like that? Donna's sitting here having a blonde moment.
That one out. Yeah, I think I'm
cornflake and snowflake.
Oh, okay. Well, he's flaky.
I had to bring the blonde Italian up to speed here with us on that one.
He's flaky, that's it. So, Dr. Kelly Ward.
Kelly, you can use that, by the way, if you'd like.
All right, thank you.
No credit needed. Go ahead, Donna. I interrupted you with my corn and snow moment.
Okay, so Friday, of course, we had this killer storm hitting Texas. And Trump goes ahead, like he did not do, again, he didn't endorse you and he didn't pardon Joe Arpaio in that speech, but he did say, it's coming, and that's good. And he's got one of them down now because he did pardon Joe Arpaio on Friday. So what happens? I think it might have taken him about 2 minutes. John McCain blasts Trump for pardoning Joe Arpaio.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable how out of touch this guy is.
Yep, John McCain came out with at least he came out with a fierce statement that showed what side he's on, which is not the side of the American people, which is not the side of border security, which is not the side of stopping illegal immigration. Jeff Flake came out with just a completely bland, wishy-washy statement that really didn't say much at all. And so, but I came out with a statement too, of course, and I said, thank you, President Trump, for pardoning Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who is a true patriot, who did the job that the federal government refused to do. And then he was taken to task for it by a federal judge appointed by Barack Obama's Justice Department and Barack Obama's cronies. And I think that it was entirely appropriate to take on this politically motivated conviction by a judge by President Trump. I think he did the right thing.
Absolutely.
Well, I think there are a lot of other pardons that Trump needs to do, and he needs to do them soon, maybe starting with a lot of the military that are in Leavenworth, as well as our friend Dinesh D'Souza. Pardons can speak volumes both positively and negatively, as we saw with Barack Obama and his massive felon pardon.
Yes, he pardoned people who went back out on the street and committed heinous crimes. He and no one complained. There was really not a word. I didn't see a tweet from Jeff Flake condemning that. I didn't see a tweet from John McCain or an official statement from his office coming out condemning the pardons that Barack Obama made. Not nearly the venom that he has for a Republican president who's pardoning a Republican sheriff for doing the job that Jeff Flake and John McCain refused to do by securing the border and stopping illegal immigration.
Yeah, Sheriff Joe was definitely railroaded. He's 85 years old, too, but Obama pardoned 5 of the worst Gitmo detainees that went back to the killing fields and killed Americans. He was, I think, non-existent when the 5 cops were shot in Dallas. Fort Hood was workplace violence. Bill Clinton pardons FALN terrorists. Obama playing golf 10 minutes after honoring our heroes killed in Afghanistan and Iraq. Ferguson, Baltimore, nothing. It's just unbelievable.
All right, well, that's
the list
all.
Goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
exactly
it does.
Right.
It does. Kelly Ward, here's what I would like to have you explain to the listeners. If you would have been elected when you were running against John McCain, and the listeners know we threw every ounce of our weight behind you. We believe in you, unconditionally. How would things have been different if you would have been in Washington as opposed to John McCain? And then the flip side of the coin, how will it be different with you in Washington and Jeff Flake doing whatever he needs to do the rest of his life?
Well, of course, many of the things that are being seen in Washington wouldn't be at the forefront. Remember, John McCain gave that fake Russian dossier to Jim Comey. So that started the Russia madness that we've seen. So that would be off the table. Obamacare, the skinny repeal at least, would have already been passed and enacted, and people would have some of that burden of this unconstitutional government mandate lifted off their backs. They could be having access to high-quality, cost-effective health care because the free market would be back into the picture rather than government control over our health care. And Donald Trump would have a strong ally in the United States Senate to put forward the America First agenda that he talked about on the campaign trail and still wants to accomplish now that he's in the White House. Things like border security, stopping illegal immigration, repealing Obamacare, fixing the tax code, making sure that the economy continues to thrive like it is already with the confidence under President Trump. We would make sure that we have the strongest military in the world in order to have peace through strength, not expensive nation building and endless occupation. but peace through strength. And that, I would have been that ally, and I would have been able to help rally some of the other conservatives who haven't had the support they needed to be able to get those jobs done that the American people want. When Mitch McConnell came out and said that President Trump he's kind of a newbie. He just has too high of an expectation for the Congress and for the Senate to be able to get something done. President Trump, yes, has high expectations, but guess who else has high expectations? The American people have high expectations, and we're tired, extremely tired of the excuses. The era of excuses is over, and that's why in 2018 we are going to see a landslide of rhino Republicans, squishy Republicans, so-called moderate Republicans being washed out of office by people with a backbone, Republicans with a backbone. The insiders want us all to fear that we are going to lose our Republican majority. We are not going to lose our Republican majority because there are strong people who want to come and take those Republican seats and do the right thing with them.
Well said. Arizona, we accept the fact, begrudgingly, that you all made a big mistake when John McCain and Kelly Ward were going head-to-head. Don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Don't make the same mistake twice.
It's true. If you have buyer's remorse, if you were one of those people who was misled by attack ads or by the name John McCain, that, he's been there for almost 40 years, we need to keep him. Now, that seems like something I wouldn't say because I, of course, am running on term limits. I think that having people in D.C. for decade after decade after decade leads to corruption and stagnation. And that's not what the American people need. That's not what this country needs. I think that we need fresh ideas and fresh people regularly in order to keep the country moving in the right direction. So if people, if someone has buyer's remorse, or, of course, if you voted for me the last time, in 2018, we have an opportunity to make history. We can, number one, retire a sitting senator, and number two, we can have the first woman senator from the great state of Arizona, and I certainly want it to be a conservative Republican with a backbone.
Well, without a doubt, this guy thinks that women are most definitely the stronger of the two sexes.
Absolutely.
Period. So
let's
change the gender representation there in Washington D.C. with Kelly Ward. I think it'd be a strong move.
Thank you. Well, it's funny because this week the Senate Leadership Fund, which is basically Mitch McConnell and leadership slush fund to try to attack anyone who would take on a Republican, whether they are a Republican that votes with the people or not. And so they came out with some attack ads. And, of course, those attack ads have been completely debunked by PolitiFact and others. But the reason they're spending all of this money on television ads and digital ads is because I am the front runner. I want them to get behind me. I mean, why wouldn't our party, the Republican Party, be standing up and saying, hey, we have the opportunity to have a Republican woman with intelligence, with strength, with backbone, with great policy ideas, and with a record that can't be denied, a record of success in the Arizona State Senate, and also a conservative record ranked as the most conservative member of the Arizona legislature, the entire legislature, my last year in office. Why wouldn't Republicans be flocking this way? And the people are, the voters are. But those insiders, they need to come my way too so that we can actually get things done.
Because Mitt Romney's daughter is running the RNC. That's why. Here's what they're doing is even in Alabama, where we are, 20 miles away from. The situation there with Roy Moore, who is, if nobody remembers, the judge who put the 10 Commandments outside and got lambasted for that, going against the rhino that got put in there to take Jeff Sessions' place in the interim, that, of course, Mitch McConnell wants and talked Trump into endorsing. But last I looked, Moore has an 18-point lead because the voters at this point, I really feel, are waking up.
Well, that's what it takes. It takes voter turnout on Election Day. And for me, in the primary is where the big race is. Now, don't get me wrong. The Democrats are going to come in and try to take this seat as well. They they know that if Jeff Flake is our nominee in Arizona, that they have a heck of a chance of being able to swoop in and make one of our 2 Senate seats in this red state of Arizona a blue seat. We cannot let that happen. And I think I give credit to Ronna McDaniel, because she has talked about the Republicans needing to get on board with the president's agenda. And she's actually, I don't know if she's called Jeff Flake out by name, but she doesn't need to name names either. Neither does the president. We all know who the anti-Trump Republicans are, and we all know that they need to get on board. I hope they will work with the president through this next cycle, but I definitely don't think they should be put back in office.
Let me ask you this. Dr. Kelly Ward is who we're speaking with, ladies and gentlemen, and we speak, our audience is the voter. It's not politicians. So first thing I wanted to say to you, Kelly, is that I would say a lot of the money that's coming in going against you might be, if we follow the money trail, back to the Democrat Party, because they don't want you running against their candidate. So that could be a very interesting thing to find out. Secondly,
and also,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Registering to vote, switching parties in order to vote for Jeff Flake in the Republican Party in primary from the Democrat Party. It's kind of interesting.
Interesting.
Well, they tried that here in Congress with who was the filmmaker,
the
6th District.
Yeah, really.
That was a failure. Dr. Kelly Ward, how long has your opponent occupied that seat?
Well, this is his first term in the United States Senate, but he's been in Washington for about 18 years. Funny, though, he ran on a term limit pledge when he first ran for office all those years ago. He said, I believe, the same things that I'm saying, that leads to corruption and that leads to stagnation. But after he'd been there for 3 terms in the House, he changed his mind. He became part of that swamp and decided he really liked it there. And so he's been there ever since. I think his performance in the United States Senate has been pretty dismal. Within weeks of taking office, he joined the Gang of 8 amnesty effort with our other senator, John McCain, as well as Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham, and went against the will of the people. And I think that has been really one of the defining moments as to the demise of Jeff Flake in politics is that. Now, of course, his book, Attacking the President, his manifesto against all of us, against the voters, against the people who elected Donald Trump, and against the president himself, has also been pretty defining of Jeff Flake.
I would agree. Long-term relationships, and by that I mean, a long-term position as a politician in especially Washington, D.C., not too cool. It is good in say, like a marriage or a career. Yes. Longevity is good. But when we get into D.C., Dr. Kelly Ward agrees with us that the best thing is very short-term relationships. Don't you agree, Doctor?
I do. You've heard the joke, just like diapers. Politicians and diapers need to be changed often and for the same reason.
There you go. You couldn't be more accurate.
And Don just talked about here in Georgia, the 6th District, which John Ossoff ran against Karen Handel, and the Democrats poured some $30 million into that. Right after Ossoff loses, he talks about there should be money limitations for campaigns. I mean, that's like Flake saying, we need term limits, and then liking, the swamp dealings that he's involved with. Hey, talk a little bit about, though, and it's not getting a lot of airplay, what you briefly mentioned earlier, John McCain feeding the Russian narrative. I mean, this guy is so vindictive. It's pretty obvious that all he really wants to do now is hurt Donald Trump, because basically he's mad that Trump embarrassed him during the campaign.
I think he's mad that Donald Trump is the president and he is not. I don't know, but it seems suspicious that could be so.
That makes sense.
On a radio interview yesterday about his news, and it's something about inside the intelligence community. And, I've got to pick up the book because it sounds very intriguing and sounds like a page turner, unlike Jeff Flake's book. But, John McCain has been leading that charge against President Trump again and again and again, and his protege, Jeff Flake, is following in his footsteps. Arizona's tired of it. Arizona deserves better. And that's why I'll be in the United States Senate after the election in 2018.
Hey, there you go. Dr. Kelli Ward, were you at the Phoenix speech that took place last week with Trump?
Oh, I was. Don and Donna, oh my goodness. It was so exhilarating because the people in the line were definitely fans of the president as well as voters for Kelli Ward, for me. They had stickers, they had signs, they were so excited. I couldn't walk 5 feet, well, I would say 2 feet, without somebody saying, you know, we can't wait for you to be our senator. We need you. Take a picture with me. Arizona deserves better. The excitement there was really unbelievable. Despite the over 100-degree heat outside, where people were willing to suffer through Arizona summer heat to be able to see the president, it was wonderful. My husband Mike and I actually, you remember my husband's a physician too,
right?
And we were waiting in the line, threading through with everyone else, talking, and we came across a little lady who looked terrible. She was sitting on a bench. She was all alone. She had a cane. She had a leather biker's vest on, proclaiming that she was a female veteran, and she just looked horrible. We immediately stopped, helped her get the jacket off, laid her down. She was just getting ready to pass out from the heat. And I understand other people did too. But I'm glad that God put us in the right place at the right time to help her. And, a doctor's work is never done, but it was wonderful. She was pretty funny because she sent me a message later. She went to the hospital. She got hydrated up. She got everything that she needed, but she sent me a message and basically just said, thank you so much for taking time when, you were out there campaigning, talking, but you stepped away from all that to help me. And it was really, that was an honor to be able to do, to help a female veteran in need get the help that she needed.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Kelli Ward is already saving the lives of her constituents.
Well, she works
Great
in emergency.
Great job,
been
Donna.
doing that for years.
Hey,
all right.
Kelli, hold on, Donna. We've only got about a minute left. Kelli, after Trump's speech, and Donna chastised me. She asked me why the heck I was doing this. I watched 2 hours of CNN's disgusting coverage post-speech. And the most disgusting moment that I saw, among many, was about 6 minutes in which James Clapper came on and said things to the effect that Donald Trump is not fit to be president, and he's got the nuclear codes, and this is a disaster. You probably didn't see that coverage because you were there. But
yes.
Did you hear about what Clapper had said? And if you did, what's your quick thoughts on that?
I think that the media has become somewhat unhinged. And the people that they have on many times are purporting that same message. For them to accuse Donald Trump of being mentally unfit or somehow mentally ill is appalling. I really cannot believe that our mainstream media and our cable news outlets are allowing those kinds of things on television, because there is about half of the population that is, in the resist movement, who believe every single thing that come out of the mouths of people on CNN, which Donald Trump has pointed out there is a lot of fake news coming out of CNN. I happen to agree because they started a smear campaign against me a couple of weeks ago. And so I congratulate you on your fortitude for being able to watch CNN for 2 hours. But we as the people, you all as the hosts and the people that are listening, have to, be the people who are putting out the truth and who are standing up against those outrageous accusations against our president.
Well, you got to study the enemy. That's why I watched them.
Yeah.
The narrative has changed. Yes. Russia didn't stick. So now all the deplorables are now KKK and racists, and Donald Trump is mentally unfit. That's the latest narrative. Let's see what happens next when that one doesn't work. Dr. Kelli Ward, people want to get in touch with your platform and possibly donate to your campaign. Where can they do it?
They can find out all about me at KelliWard.com, KELLIWARD.com. And they can also communicate with me, with people who support me and people who don't, on social media, Kelli Ward AZ, across all platforms. I'd love to have you. I'd love to have some communication. And, of course, every single dollar counts. We're going up against big money. We're going up against the insiders. This is this is the battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. Yeah. And I want our side to win.
There you go.
Get rid of the rhinos.
Well, if you guys out there in Radio Land don't support Kelly Ward, unfriend me now.
It's Kelly Ward with an I, KELLI Ward, WARD.com. And it's Kelly Ward AZ on all the social platforms. Dr. Kelly Ward, thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio. We'll be talking to you more in the future, and keep up the good fight.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
And coming up next, we'll be talking to Steve MALZBERG on the state of journalism, or lack thereof, coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire.
Hey folks, this is AJ Gaynor, host of Blow and Smoke on the Talk America Radio Network. We know the mainstream media has a narrative they're pushing. On my show, Blow and Smoke, we challenge that narrative, sometimes with simple facts, other times with instinctive logic, but always with truthful, honest debate. I believe the perspective I provide my listeners is indeed unique. Tune in to Blow and Smoke with yours truly, AJ Gaynor, on the Talk America Radio Network and at talkamericaradio.us.
This is Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience. When I'm not debating with Donna Fiducia about politics, I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio. Why, you ask? Because outside of my blog, founderscode.com, and my own radio show, the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic is by far the most entertaining and informative radio show on planet Earth. Plus, Don makes me feel guilty if I don't listen to his radio show every week.
KTA Digital Dallas. Talk America Radio. Simulcasting on WDDQ. Talk 92.1 Adel, Valdosta, Georgia. And WJHC. Talk 107.5 Jasper, Florida.
Hey, everybody, they're back on again.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glares. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me be the first to welcome you back to the really big show. My name, as always, remains Don Neuen. And I would say, Donna, that you will have to agree with me that tonight's show is beyond riveting. It is stellar. It is what other talk show hosts look to when they study radio shows. It's us.
I know
it's
for a
Cowboy
fact.
Logic. And you know what, Donna?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Don Neuen.
I know for a fact that Rush Limbaugh listens every Tuesday night just to get some pointers.
Yeah, so does Hannity. You can tell Hannity does it, and he keeps repeating the same damn thing over and over again. What's up with it? Is he only watching one show?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, Donna, we've got a cleanup hitter. We've got a friend of yours from many, many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. You have been excited all week about this.
Yes.
This moment. The rest of the show is riveting for the rest of the audience. This segment is riveting for you.
Yes, it is, because I go back to listening to Steve MALZBERG on WABC, because I was a major sports fanatic. When he was on with Art Rust Jr., and we were talking just before this interview started, that was back in the early 80s, WABC radio in New York City. If you've lived in the New York City area at all, you've heard Steve, and you've seen him on all the radio and TV channels, including sports, as I said. Seriously knows a lot about a lot of stuff. And of course, you've seen him on Newsmax TV, WR Radio in New York. Steve MALZBERG, welcome to your initial visit to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Oh my God. First of all, I have been wanting to do this for so long, and you guys are so much fun together. And of course, I'm new to your wonderful husband, but you and I do go way, way back, as he alluded to. And the site is great, and the show is great, and I'm hitting cleanup.
You are.
I don't know what I did to deserve it, but wow.
Well, it's because
it's like bringing me up from nowhere and then just put me in the lineup right there to clean up.
And you're
That's
about
because
to
you're a legend, Steve.
and
Let's cut right to it. I mean, you are a legend.
pretty bad to be in business for 30 years and be called a legend, isn't it?
Well, it's better than being in business for 30 years and people going, who the hell is he?
Oh, that's true. Well, that's true.
That's true. I'll take it.
But you're about to hit a Grand Slam home run because this whole week in news, or I should say last week in news and going into this week, Steve, is sports-oriented as well as journalist or lack thereof. So we got so much we can really comment on. Let's start, like I say, back in ABC Radio, I loved listening to Art Rust Jr., and you were his producer there. And tell us a little bit about that. And you really parlayed sports into getting your name out there way back in the 80s on the the big powerhouse, WABC Radio.
Yeah, we were both at WMCA, another talk station in New York, and I was actually on strike. I was in the producers union, NABET, and we were on strike. And I was like picketing at Thanksgiving and New Year's, and Art got a call from ABC, actually from Howard Cosell at ABC, because ABC, music radio, the king of music radio forever in this country, they were getting the Yankees, and starting in '81, and they wanted a pregame sports talk show before the Yankee pregame show. So I don't know, Howard Cosell recommended Art. They called Art. Art got the gig, and Art recommended me as his producer. And I stayed at WABC for 24 years. I was there from 81 to 2004. And, I mean, did everything sports-wise while producing Art. You know, I did Morning Drive Sports. I did Yankee pre- and post-game show. I did Jets pre-post and halftime, Devils pre- and post. Traveled all over. It was really an unbelievable ride for a kid in his 20s, and it was amazing. But in when OJ was driving around in the Bronco, and that same
I was
night,
on the way to Peter Luger's for dinner.
There you go. I was on my way to downstairs from ABC, Madison Square Garden, to go cover the Knicks and the Rockets in one of their NBA World Championship games, and the Yankees were playing, and we still had the Yankees, and we were covering the Yankees. And my program director, I went to him. I said, "Look, OJ's driving around in his Bronco. You have a taped show coming on after the Yankees, and you have Bob Grant, the great legendary taped show at 6 a.m. The next morning, which was a Saturday." And I said, "I'll stay and do them live." He said, "Okay, you'll sleep on the couch?" I said, "Yeah." So I did, and that sports/news story was my entree into filling in for other hosts in non-sports shows, and led to me just, leaving sports and doing politics, even though I always had politics in my sports anyway.
Mm-hmm. And that parlays right into what happened this past week. All right, I know a gentleman by the name of Bob Lee, who's worked at ESPN for probably 35 years. I think he's one of the first ESPN anchors. I believe he's still there. He's white, but he calls himself Bob Lee as opposed to Robert. So now you have this poor Asian guy, Robert Lee, and then they put this poor kid, he's probably, maybe in his 20s, and then they throw it on and they go, well, he actually came to us and said because of this controversy over these Confederate statues and after this horrible thing that Trump talked about after Charlottesville, that we can't have somebody named Robert Lee broadcast the University of Virginia.
Steve, which is it?
Game.
Which is it? Did Robert Lee, the Asian, go to ESPN and say, you know what, guys, I think it'd be a bad idea for me to do this in Charlottesville. Let's relocate me to a less volatile area. Or was it ESPN making complete idiots of themselves?
Well, I'll take the latter. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I've watched ESPN, and I can't stomach it. I can't stand to look at it. I can't stand to watch it. They are so far to the left. They are so liberal. They are so politically correct. They've done things prior to this, which, based on any shred of evidence, and especially all the evidence, it would indicate that they did this. They've even made excuses that if they're saying now that he came to them, that's news to me.
They're doubling down on their stupidity, I think.
Because they said that they did it, they offered him because it was a quicker trip home for him. I mean, I've heard every excuse in the book. This is insanity. And as long as we as conservatives don't fight back, look, you know and I know, and I've been the victim of this, maybe two people in a basement somewhere, writing letters, making phone calls, threatening boycotts, and getting corporations and TV stations and radio stations to act out of fear. Whereas we sit back and let it happen and do nothing in return. We have no organized groups. We have no people who say, hey, if you do that, Company X, then you're going to lose all of us. We don't fight back. And that's why they do these politically correct, insane things, because they get away with it.
Yeah, and it's getting to the point where it's just sheer stupidity. And, I got to tell you, listening to Trump's speech in Phoenix, in Phoenix, about reiterating what he said in Charlottesville, or about Charlottesville.
Well, did you see what CNN and MSNBC focused on in the middle of the speech, right after he about the time he got into or toward the end of his diatribe on Charlottesville and what he said? They focused on one thing, and they focused on it all the way until the after speech party that they had, and that was he left out one line. Did you notice that?
And what was the one line?
I don't even remember what it was, but that's all they could focus on, and that was the only chyron on the bottom.
When he read from the paper that he pulled out of his pocket, they said that he didn't read the line where he said they were, both sides were violent or whatever.
Right.
He left out the both sides line. Look, he could do no right, no matter what he ever does. When he made the second statement on Charlottesville and said everything they wanted him to say after that Saturday, I think it was a Monday. They knew he was going to do it Monday, and yet they came back after he said everything they wanted to say, and of course said, well, why did it take him so long? You can't make this stuff up. It's juvenile. It's predictable. It's insane. These people are foaming at the mouth. The Ana Navarros of the world, who pretend to be Republicans, have done some of the most horrific things. And I want to point you to something. It was last week. You had this guy on. I guess he's the new punching bag for quote unquote Republican on these panels. They don't, half the time they don't even put any Republican. After Jeffrey Lord and KELLI left, they don't even put a make believe Republican on the panel. But so you had Ana Navarro and April Ryan attacking this guy who happened to be white, and I say happened to be white because April asked him, because she said, "You don't interrupt me. Do you want to be black? Are you glad you're not black? Would you like to be black?" So she used her ethnicity to badger him and attack him. And Ana Navarro called him a creep and talked about how don't say that to a Latina, meaning her. So both of these people, these minority women, use their ethnicities to attack the white lone Republican on the panel. It was disgusting and vulgar. And of course, Anderson Cooper said absolutely nothing.
Hey, let's talk about Anderson Cooper here.
Aren't there slaves in his family tree someplace?
Yeah, he's
slave owners?
That didn't sound right.
No, I don't care what it sounded like. Here's the thing, Donna. Hold on. Anderson Cooper's a Vanderbilt, right?
Yep, he is.
Okay. Weren't there slave owners someplace in the Vanderbilt family? Didn't they have slaves?
I'll tell you something else there is. Nancy Pelosi's father, I believe, was he mayor of Baltimore? Or he was a congressman or a councilman. But Nancy Pelosi's father in Maryland was instrumental in putting up a lot of these Confederate monuments. Nobody's talking about that either.
Well, wait a minute. Well, first of all, I don't know about Anderson Cooper. You may be right, but I have no idea.
Oh, yeah,
but
he is. He's a Vanderbilt.
But look, all you got to do is look at the Clintons. Yeah. I mean, Bill Clinton signed Confederate Flag Day into law in Arkansas. I mean, we know what Bill Clinton and he made an excuse for Robert Byrd at his funeral as a eulogizing him. Made an excuse for why he joined the KKK and how it was all right. Hillary said he's my mentor. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's as far as you got to go. Just look at the racist by the left standards, the racist Clintons. I mean, it's insane.
It is insane.
For Bill, you got welfare reform, so he's a racist. You got Don't Ask, Don't Tell that he signed, so he's a homophobe. I mean, you got Bill Clinton should be, banished into obscurity by their standards.
I know. It's not funny, but it is laughable, unfortunately, because if you don't laugh about it, you go insane. I don't know how Trump.
Hold on a second, because Steve, you mentioned earlier that you'd seen the disgrace of Don Lemon's commentary and his show after the speech in Phoenix that Trump gave. There was a 6 talking head panel that was on there with Don Lemon. One of them was a Republican strategist. I'd never heard of the guy. He, quite frankly, looked like an unkept bed that would be better described as a liberal college professor. That's what he looked like to me. But he was even coming out labeling Trump as insane and unfit to hold office and a disgrace and everything from this speech. Now, I listened to every syllable of Trump's speech in Phoenix. And I want to preface this because you may not know, I didn't support Trump. I was a Ted Cruz guy from day one up until Cruz no longer had a chance and Trump became the nominee. And at that point, I threw every ounce of my ability behind Donald Trump so that because my objective then changed. It was no longer I'm for a candidate. I'm now against and doing everything I can to defeat liberalism. So I threw every ounce of effort behind Trump. But what is going on with this, this liberal posing as a Republican on CNN, and they're all just bashing him? I couldn't find a single thing wrong with that speech other than it went too long.
Mm-hmm.
It did go a little long. There was absolutely nothing wrong with this speech. This is now typical. They find people. There's this ethics guy who served in under George W. Bush. I forget his name. They bring him on all the time to do nothing but trash the heck out of Trump. Every Republican they have on, for the most part. I mean, Ana Navarro, as I mentioned, Alice Stewart, who was a communications director for the Cruz campaign, and she's held other positions. They all are sitting there and of course, not to even bring up in the same breath, the dynamic married duo who discussed the heck out of me. Alex, what's the guy's name? He's the Daily Beast guy. It'll come to me.
Yeah,
it'll come to me.
I can't think of it either.
And anyway. But that's what they do now. They said, and Ana Navarro, like I said, I mean, they're disgusting. They're not, and they get away with calling them Republicans. It's a joke. It's a sick joke. And Jeffrey Lord gets fired for nothing, and nobody replaces Kayleigh McEnany when she resigned to go ahead and speak for the RNC. And people like me who used to go on with Brian Stelter on reliable sources and whatnot, we're not invited anymore. And this is it. They have panels, like you said, 6-1. 7-1, including the host, and that's what they're happy with. They don't even make believe anymore.
What it turns out to be really is the Republicans.
Avalon. John. What's his name? Avalon. And his wife Hemingway.
I didn't know they were married.
Oh,
See, it's such an incestuous business, isn't it?
And they are two of the biggest rhinos you'll ever want to see. John Avalon and whatever Margaret Margaret Hemingway. Oh my God, I can't stand to look at them.
And all my
friends,
I
just can't stand it.
And all my friends who are on the left, and in NEW FM,
you don't have any left.
That's true. They've all disowned me. All my friends, all the producers from NEW, they've all disowned me. The thing is, the people that you see, as far as these leftists are concerned that are supposedly Republicans, like a Lindsey Graham-nesty, they speak out against Trump because they know they're going to get all this media play. And look at John McCain. John McCain took, maybe 10 minutes to come out over the weekend, last Friday, pardoning Joe Arpaio like Trump did late on Friday. And John McCain says he immediately came out and blasted Trump for that. And I'm like, will you please go away? Does this guy understand?
But now here's another thing. Out of that Phoenix speech, Donald Trump blasted a war hero who has brain cancer.
Yeah,
I mean, God bless him and all that, but I'm sorry, being a war hero, doesn't insulate you from criticism. It never insulated John McCain when he was running for president from criticism from the leftist media. And I'm sorry he's sick. I really am. But that doesn't. If you're going to come out and take political stands against the president and be the vote that stops healthcare reform, the president has a right to blast you. I mean, this is just look. They have ruined themselves forever. The president is absolutely right in everything he said about the media at that Phoenix speech.
Yeah.
Every single word. We are at war. It's a war being launched and has been launched by the media against this administration, against people like you and me and your listeners, with fake news by omission. Let's go to the Arpaio thing. if I heard it once, I heard it a million times on CNN last Friday night in the aftermath of the pardon. How, oh my, this is against the rule of law. The president did not go through the proper procedures. He didn't consult with the Justice Department. Never mentioning, of course, Bill Clinton, who did go through the Justice Department and the FBI when he pardoned the FALN terrorists who made bombs and blew up buildings in this country. And they both said, don't do it. The Justice Department said, don't do it. The Attorney General said, don't do it. The FBI said, don't do it. He did it anyway.
How about Obama pardoning 5 of the worst Gitmo detainees that went back into the battlefield and killed Americans?
That's why fake news by omission, not putting things in perspective, is the worst kind of fake news. They make it seem like, oh, my God, when Trump criticized that judge the first time, oh, my God, they didn't tell you Obama did it at the State of the Union to the Supreme Court, that FDR threatened to put a whole new Supreme Court on, and that Bill Clinton went after a judge himself. They don't put it in context. They give no perspective to it, and you think it's the only time it's ever happened, and that fake news is the worst.
Yep.
Steve Malzberg, let me ask you this. We have got in that post-speech, I just keep referring to it as a disaster. There's nothing less than that. There was a moment when James Clapper came on with Don Lemon. It was probably 6 minutes long. And that was, in my opinion, the most disgusting point of the evening. I want to get your thoughts on James Clapper and his irresponsible, at best, comment about Donald Trump.
Well, James Clapper has a political agenda. It's obvious. It's been obvious for a long time. And James Clapper, didn't he tell give a misleading statement? Some would say he lied to Congress about the information that they have and they gather on average American citizens. So, again, that's another omission, that when they tell you what James Clapper said, they don't tell you who James Clapper is and what he's been, in my opinion, guilty of in the past. So, and then they went on that and they just played it over and over, and oh my God, he's got the nuclear code. It's just, I mean, they're crying wolf. They are crying wolf so badly, so much. I heard somebody during the hurricane, after Trump tweeted out many tweets in support, thoughts and prayers with the people of Texas, declared it a disaster area, which freed up lots of funds as it was happening. Okay. I heard them criticize him for not coming out and giving a speech about.
I remember Obama giving a speech. Didn't New Orleans flood during?
What's he supposed to say?
I know.
The whole thing is insane.
It is.
And we could sit here and talk about this for hours. But this is what it's deteriorated into, and it shows like yours and places like Newsmax and alternative forms of media that are needed now more than ever.
It is. We're talking with Steve Malzberg, and again, if you're in the New York area, you've heard him for decades, and you know him now from Newsmax TV, and I've known him for many years. I remember sitting in the studios at WABC one time when you were doing a show, and that was rather cool. CNN, has a little picture of the storm swirling around last Friday as it hits Texas, but continues to harp on the Ohio and then the Sebastian Gorka thing. Steve Malzberg, talk a little bit about, in my opinion, now if people would look at it, I say this to the few leftist friends I have, we only have a couple minutes left though, Steve, that obviously Russia didn't work. So now the latest morphing is that Trump is mentally incompetent, I think. Is that the latest fake news narrative?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the latest fake news narrative. He's mentally incompetent. He's almost to blame for the hurricane. Get this. Well, and of course, the pardoning of Arpaio reinforces that he's a racist and reinforces everything that he, quote unquote, said about, equating Nazis to poor protesters. So they're going crazy with that. You're right. The Russian collusion is off the pages. We see nothing about that all of a sudden. But CNN last Friday was blaming Donald Trump for forcing them not to cover. Why did he do this the night of a hurricane? They actually said he was forcing them not to cover the hurricane, but to cover the breaking news, which was Arpaio, and in their words, getting rid of Gorka and the transgender ban. So they blamed Trump for not allowing them to cover the story that needed to be covered. That's how insane they are.
It is. And the thing is, this is classic Saul Alinsky, classic communist tactics. Take down monuments. It's ISIS tactics, quite frankly. Hey, remember they took down the Palmyra monuments?
Oh, yeah.
So let's take down all these monuments. My leftist friends say, well, look, they took down the Nazi monuments in Germany. And I said, yeah, and anti-Semitism is on the rise again. Crickets. They have no answer for that.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable to me, how the bigger picture is not given.
Peter Stuyvesant in New York, he was the governor of. Well, now they want to take his statue down.
My father went to Stuyvesant High School.
Yeah, because they want to not take a statue down. They want to wipe out his name because theoretically he didn't want Jews and other minorities to come in at the time. So they want to wipe New York City's history of Stuyvesant. Look, what could you say? This is fascism. This is the left's fascism. They're free speech fascists and worse, and they're violent. And when it comes to Antifa and those anarchist groups, and the left has now said that as long as they're battling Nazis, as long as they're battling people that are dangerous or we don't like what they stand for, violence is pretty much okay against them.
Yeah.
So they've opened up a whole new world, a whole new Pandora's box. And everybody is going to regret this. Everybody.
Yeah, it's classic groundwork for civil war, because what's really happening is they're saying that people who voted for Trump are KKK and Nazis. Steve Malzberg, what's your handle on Twitter? Is it at Steve Malzberg?
Okay, very good. I'll keep it simple. At Steve M Talk. At Steve M Talk. Same on Facebook. At Steve M Talk. And there's even a YouTube channel. Right now it's only got 2 classic videos of me on CNN giving it to them, but there's going to be a lot more. But that's also, if you go to YouTube, the channel is Steve M Talk. So it's all Steve M Talk.
Cool. Very cool. Steve Malzberg, it's great to finally get you on the show. And we always end with a quote. And this one comes from Henry Kissinger. The task of the leader is to get his people from where they are to where they have not been. Let's hope that does happen. Steve Malzberg, thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio. And folks, that wraps up another riveting episode, as Don would say. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. Find us at cowboylogic.us, and of course our great network, talkamericaradio.us. Have a great week, everyone, and God bless America.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.